Okay, Monday morning, but let's not talk anything technical today. So I'm a huge fan of Sufism, and I one of my most favorite books, of course, is Ali Shafaq's 40 Rules of Love. And I've been studying Sufism, and I now want to actually learn Urdu. I've been exposed to it because my dad was posted in the areas of J&K a lot when I was younger, and I do like poetry and all of that, right? So, and Urdu is part of poetry by default. But there's a very interesting thing I have come across, which I have come across earlier, but now it's registered. So in Sufism, there are these 7 stages of love. The first one, of course, and of course they say he, but I don't know if it's a gender or it's just. I don't think it's about gender. It's just the way to address. Uh, so there are 7 stages of love, which essentially talks about the first one being attraction. This is the time when you suddenly get attracted to somebody, and it typically is physical in nature. Man, woman doesn't matter. Something will attract you. It's not about universality of what attraction is, but it's what's attracted to you. So that's the first part. Then the second one is of course attachment. This is the time when the wooing start. When you like, oh shit, I like this person. Are they interested in me? If they're interested in me, I'll woo them. Wooing typically is chasing is more of a male perspective, but yeah. But the wooing starts when you're like, oh, the other person is interested, let me woo them. Then the third one, of course, is love. This is the time when you kind of are like in this la la land, the hazy phase, right? You're like, okay, I'm in love, and you kind of are like oblivious to everything, and you're like fully like googly eyed about it. So that's that. And then, of course, there's trust. This is the time when you start trusting each other, when there is dependence, when you kind of start looking for, when you start expecting, that's the trust phase. Then there's worship. This is the time when you kind of start looking at the other person. You start falling in love with small traits, the micro traits. When you're like, oh shit, everything about this person is great, and this worship is also, and vice versa. So what happens is there's a little bit of a fusing of the identities and a little bit of fusing of who you are. So there's that worship is basically coexistence. You decide to coexist. And then there is madness. So madness essentially is when you can't do without each other, when you become like really really like, you really miss each other and you want to be around each other, and there is this need to be with each other and all of that. And the last, of course, is moth, which is nothing but two people coming together with common values, common beliefs, common lifestyles, common whatever. And if you look at it, this is a process. This doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in one casual day. This doesn't happen in a situationship. This doesn't happen any of these complicated things that we've made of love out to be. It's a process, and it's staged, and it's faced, and you have to respect that, because if you don't, this won't go anywhere. And it's a very beautiful rendition of 7 stages of love, and I found it beautiful. And if you just apply it to modern context of love, the modern love, actually it still applies. But I think we forget stages and we try to skip stages, and then we're like, oh, why hasn't it worked out? Or we become cynical about love, or we like, whatever, right? Or we chase it as a dopamine or whatever. Why? This is beautiful. So yeah, so Sufism, 7 stages of love. If you haven't read El Shafaq's 7 Rules of Love, 40 Rules of Love, please go read it. It's a brilliant book. And I think there's a movie that's been made on this. I think it's Madhuri Dixit, um, Nasiri Shah film, where I think this was explained. I'm not really sure what that Ded Ishkya or Ishkya. I think that also speaks about it. So you can actually go and find it if you're interested.